We are now going to construct our liner pieces. So let's grab both of our pocket overlay pieces, and we are going to add a strip of double-sided tape on either side of the pocket box, which is this cutout window. And you'll see here that I kept the double-sided tape about 1/4 of an inch away from this side of the pocket box. And I kept this strip of double-sided tape about centered below the pocket window and above the bottom of the overlay. That way it'll stay out of all of our stitching that we're gonna do here. Next, what you're gonna do is find the center of the top edge of the overlay by just folding it in half and clipping a little notch right there in the center, and doing the same on the other one. And the top edge is the one that does not have the curved corners here. Next, we're going to grab our liner panels, and we're going to find the center of the top edges on those as well. And for good measure, I'm also going to find the center of the bottom. All right, I'm going to remove the paper from the tape on the pocket overlay, but only the one that is on top. I'm going to leave the tape on the one that's on the bottom for now, and I'll show you why here in just a sec. And we are going to line up the center marks that we just made and also align the top edge of the overlay with the top edge of the liner panel. And we're going to stick that down. Okay, now that is attached, and now I'm going to remove the paper from the other piece of tape. And the reason that I do them one at a time is so that this lower part of the overlay doesn't get kind of warped or in a weird position while I'm trying to stick down the top. Once I stick down the top and I find a good position for the overlay, then I take the paper off of the lower piece, and then I just kind of let it lay. I just kind of let it go where it naturally wants to go, and then I stick it down. That way the pocket box isn't squished up too far like this, or maybe pulled too far down like this. It just kind of sits where it wants to sit, and then I stick it down. So that is going to give you a nice square and straight pocket box. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, line up the centers and line up the top edge. Let's stick that down. Remove the paper on the bottom tape and let it fall where it wants to fall. And stick it down. So there is your other pocket overlay. Next, what we're going to do is top stitch around the outside of the overlay, not the outside of the cutout box here, but just the outside of the overlay. Once you get to this corner, we're going to use our trick of just going one stitch at a time and pivoting in between, and that'll give you nice and smooth curved corners. All right, it is okay to backstitch at the start and the stop up here on the top edge, because that will be hidden by our seam allowance around the top of the bag. So you can see here is my stitched overlay right around the outside edge of the overlay, and our corners are nice and smooth curves. Okay, and now I'm going to stitch the other one. Okay, both of our overlays are stitched, and you want to make sure that you are not stitching across the top of the overlay. Leave that open here for the next step. And that next step is going to be turning the liner panels over to the wrong side. And then we're going to trim away the liner that's inside the overlay. So I'm just going to get my scissors in between the overlay and the liner here, and I'm going to trim somewhat close to the stitching, about a ½ inch away from the stitching, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And then there's also going to be a point where you are going to have to unstick the liner panel from the DST that we just put down in order to secure the overlay. And that is totally fine. So I'm just trimming this along. The bottom edge of the window, and then I'm coming and trimming off this entire square of fabric. So now you can see that there's no liner panel fabric visible through the window of the overlay. If I flip it to the back side here, you might be able to see that the double-sided tape is still along the top edge of the overlay, and we're going to keep that there because we are going to use it later. If yours didn't stay stuck, it's okay, we can add it back later, but just keep that double-sided tape there if it's still there once you remove the liner panel. And we are going to do the same thing with this one. Scissors in between the two layers and cut away the liner. Unstick it from the double-sided tape and then cut along the bottom of the box. Just be very careful not to cut your overlay. And we are almost done here. There we go. Again, this does not have to be pretty because you're never going to see these cuts from the correct side. And then also, again, my double-sided tape is still stuck to the back of my overlay, which is good. And we are going to set these both aside and work on our interior pocket liners. Here I have one of my interior pocket liners, and we're going to work on the zipper pocket first. So I also have my 10-inch zipper. If you're doing the day bag size, you want an 11-inch zipper. Take your zipper and lay it wrong sides together with the right side of the liner, and line up one of the edges of the zipper with the short edge of your liner. And we are just going to baste that in place at about 1/8 of an inch or so. All right, that zipper is basted onto one edge, and now we are going to take the other short edge of the liner and fold it up to meet the zipper with the wrong side of the zipper facing the right side of the liner again. And we are going to baste the zipper to the other side of the liner. You can definitely clip this if you want. I typically just go for it. Now you have your zipper liner completely basted to the zipper, and we are going to lay a couple pieces of double-sided tape on the edges of the zipper, just spanning the length of the zipper right up against the edge. Okay, do the same on the other side. There's our double-sided tape. And next we are going to add a zipper pull. Now I like to do the zipper pull after I've basted it to the liner so that I don't have to worry about the bump that the zipper pull makes in the zipper. I could just sew straight without having to move my zipper pull around while I'm sewing. All right, so now my pocket has a zipper pull attached. And next we're going to grab one of our liner panels with the attached overlay, And we're going to remove the paper from the tape on the zipper. Both sides is fine this time. And we're going to center the zipper within the window of the overlay. Okay, you can see here that my zipper is centered within the box on the overlay. And now we're going to stitch this box in 2 different steps. We are going to flip the liner up so that it is out of our way. And then we are just going to start with our needle down just past the edge of this pocket window. And we're going to stitch a straight line right underneath the pocket window all the way across until you get to this edge, and stop with your needle down just past this short edge of the pocket window, moving your zipper pull out of the way as you go. But make sure that your pocket liner is pushed up and out of the way, otherwise you'll be stitching through your pocket. Make sure you leave long tails at the start and the stop so you can tie them off at the end. All right, I'm approaching the short edge of the pocket window, and my needle is down right alongside that short edge of the window, and I'm going to go 1 stitch further and then lift my needle and pull long threads. So you can see I started my stitching just past this side of the window and I ended just past this side on the other side of the window. And I'm going to flip this over, tug on the strings on the back to pull the strings from the front to the back, and then tie them off. Okay, my stitches are tied off on the back now, so I'm going to take my liner panel and pull it down so that it's now facing down. And from the front, we are going to start stitching up the side, across the top, and down the other side of these pocket window. I'm going to start with my needle in the last stitch that we made on this bottom set of stitches, and I'm going to go up and over and then end my stitch line in the last stitch from the first one. Pulling long threads from my needle. Okay, I'm at the end, so I'm going to go 1 stitch further, pivot, and go down this side of the box. And I'm going to make sure that my stitches line up at the very end. Okay, so in up, over, and down, and now I'm going to flip this over and tie these threads off in the back. All right, so our stitches are all tied off and our pocket window is stitched, so we are now going to fold back the sides of the liner like this, and we're going to stitch down the side of the pocket to close up that pocket. If you have any double-sided tape left over on the zipper tape, you're going to want to just pick that off really quick because it'll get stuck underneath your presser foot. So I'm just going to quickly remove that really quick and stitch closed the edge of this pocket. All right, and I am going to move right into doing the same thing on the other side, taking the DST off of the zipper tape. Okay, and sewing right up the edge of the liner pocket. And I like to go over the teeth a couple times, so I'm going to back stitch and then go forward again. And that just helps seal off those zipper teeth. All right, and now we have a fully functional pocket in our liner panel. Next, we are going to work on the other interior pocket, which is going to be a slip pocket. So there's not going to be a zipper in this window. So first we're going to retrieve our second interior pocket liner. And on the back side, 1 inch away from one of the shorter edges, we are going to mark a line that is 1 inch away from the edge. Okay. And then we're going to add double-sided tape to the edge of the pocket. You can use an iron instead of double-sided tape, but I don't often have my iron heated up when I need it. So I just use tape instead. So add a line of tape to the top edge, remove the paper, and fold the edge down to meet the line you just drew. I also use my seam roller to really stick that down and to make that crease nice and crisp. Okay, once again, we are going to use double-sided tape. This one is definitely needed. You can't sub it out for an iron. So put that along the raw edge of where you fold it over. So not along the fold, but along the raw edge here, right above the line we just drew. And we are going to take our liner panel, and with it wrong side facing up, we're going to remove the paper from the tape on our interior pocket liner, and we're going to flip it so that it's right side up, and we're going to stick it down right below the edge of that pocket window. So you can see here the liner is stuck just below the edge of the window, and you can't see any of the pocket liner from the front. So we're going to sew this pocket window the same way we did as our zipper pocket, where we started about 1 stitch length away from the short edge of the pocket and then stitched a straight line all the way across the bottom and ended about 1 stitch length away from this side of the box. Leave long tails of thread at the start and the stop, and then we can pull them to the back and tie them off. One thing to note is that before I said if you still have double-sided tape on your overlay, leave it there because we're going to use it later. In the next step is where we're going to use that, but the double-sided tape might actually stick to your sewing machine bed as you're stitching this line. So I like to just grab a piece of cloth or something to put on underneath the double-sided tape while I'm feeding it through. And it's not going to interfere with the stitch line that we're doing because we're sewing down here. And this is actually what I cut off of the liner panel when we attached the overlays. This is just covering up the DST that's above the pocket box. So again, pull long threads and stitch all the way across. Okay, it's a nice straight stitch line. And then from the back side, pull the front thread to the back, tie it off. And then I, again, like to keep the thread tails long. So for this part, I just lift the side of the pocket that hasn't been sewn down and tuck the threads underneath it. And then stick the edge of the pocket back down again. So the ends of the threads are protected behind the pocket for now. Do the same on the other side. Okay, and I'm just gonna lift the side of the pocket, tuck the threads underneath the pocket, and then stick that back down. Okay, next we're gonna remove this scrap piece of fabric, and I have an exposed piece of double-sided tape here now. If you don't have the double-sided tape, this is where we're going to add some. So grab a ruler and just measure about 1 3/4 inches down from the top edge of the overlay. And this certainly doesn't have to be a precise measurement. And then add double-sided tape right along the edge of your ruler. And when you do that, you can take the end of your pocket and fold it up to meet the double-sided tape. In this case, it's just going to meet my ruler because I already have double-sided tape down from before. Okay, so the top of our pocket is stuck down now. And from the front, we are going to make sure that the pocket is pointing towards the bottom of the liner panel. Pull long threads. We're gonna start with our needle down in the last stitch from the line we stitched before. And we're gonna go up the side and across the top and down the other side. So my apologies, my camera was not recording when I did the next couple of steps. So I'm just gonna outline them for you now. What I did after I finished sewing this slip pocket box is I turned this over and I cut open the bottom of the pocket. The sides should still be open, but the bottom was folded. And I just got my scissors in there and just trimmed like this and cut open the bottom of the pocket so that we had 2 separate liner pieces for the pocket. And then I flipped this over to the right side and I peeled back the side of the liner panel to reveal the side of the slip pocket. And there might be some double-sided tape left over right here at the top of your pocket. And I just peeled that away so that I could stitch down the side of the pocket. And I did the same on this side where I peeled this side back and I stitched down the side of the pocket. The bottom of the pocket is still open from when we cut the pocket. And that is going to remain open until the very last step of the pattern, so that we can pull our liner up through this pocket and close it off at the end. So that is our completed slip pocket. Again, my apologies for not filming these steps.